Fifth Avenue, today, glass towers, tourists, luxury stores selling things no one needs. The sidewalk is crowded, everyone moving fast, no one looking down, no one thinking about what used to be here. But if you could peel back the concrete, if you could remove the skyscrapers, if you could go back 120 years, you would see something that no longer exists anywhere on Earth. A canyon of palaces, marble chateaux rising 5, 6 stories, limestone mansions with ballrooms bigger than most people's homes, iron gates, courtyards, carved stone facades that took years to complete. Between 51st and 59th Street, the Vanderbilt family built an entire city within a city. 10 mansions, maybe more. Each one designed to make the others feel inadequate. Each one more expensive than the last. This was not a neighborhood. This was a dynasty in stone. A family trying to build immortality one mansion at a time. They called it Vanderbilt Row. And then, in less than 50 years, it was gone. Every mansion, demolished, erased, replaced, as if they never existed. How does the richest family on Earth build palaces meant to last forever and watch them all disappear in a single lifetime? This is that story, and it's not about architecture. It's about what happens when you confuse wealth with permanence. When you believe that building something beautiful means you've built something that will last. The Vanderbilts built their empire in stone, and then they watched it crumble. Every single palace. The Vanderbilt fortune began with one man, Cornelius Vanderbilt, the Commodore. Born poor, started with a ferry boat, built steamship lines, then railroads. By the time he died in 1877, he was worth $100 million, $2.5 billion today, the richest man in America, richer than almost anyone in the world. But the Commodore didn't live like royalty. He lived in a townhouse on Washington Place, modest, simple. He didn't believe in excess. He believed in accumulation, in growth, in keeping what you earned. He wore cheap suits. He ate plain food. He spent his life building the fortune, not spending it. When he died, he left almost everything to one son, William Henry Vanderbilt. And William doubled it in 8 years, $200 million by 1885. But William understood something his father didn't. Or maybe he understood it too well. Money means nothing if no one knows you have it. So William built the first palace, 645th Avenue, finished in 1882, a massive brownstone mansion, not a house, a statement. He wanted everyone who walked past to understand the Vanderbilts had arrived. Inside, ballrooms, libraries, art galleries, paintings by European masters, furniture imported from France, ceilings hand-painted by artists brought over from Italy. William filled the house with beauty, with proof, with evidence that the Vanderbilts deserved to be here, among the old money families who had been wealthy for generations. But it wasn't enough, because old money didn't accept new money. They never do. The Astors, the Livingstons, the families who had been rich since before America was America. They looked at the Vanderbilts and saw exactly what they were. Newcomers, arrivistas. Rich, yes, but not refined, not cultured, not one of them. So William built more. 2 houses next door for his daughters, matching brownstones, 640, 642, 644 Fifth Avenue. 3 connected mansions, a compound, the beginning of Vanderbilt Row. William Henry died in 1885, a stroke, just like his father. He was 64, and when he died, the fortune was divided. 8 children, each receiving roughly $10 million. Each one now wealthy enough to do whatever they wanted. And what they wanted was to prove something. To themselves, to each other, to the world. They wanted to build palaces. Cornelius Vanderbilt II was the eldest son, responsible, serious, the one who was supposed to carry on the business. He inherited his father's house at 640 Fifth Avenue, but it wasn't enough. It was his father's house, his father's statement. He needed his own. So in 1893, he demolished it, his father's mansion, the palace William had built to announce the family's arrival. Cornelius tore it down, and in its place, he built something bigger, grander, more intimidating. the largest private residence ever built in New York City. 154 rooms, 4 stories, red brick and limestone, French Renaissance style, designed by George B. Post, then later expanded by Richard Morris Hunt. The house took up the entire block between 57th and 58th Street. It had a ballroom that could hold hundreds, a grand staircase of Caen stone, stained glass windows by John Lafarge. Every room filled with art, tapestries, sculptures, paintings worth fortunes. But here's what's strange. Cornelius and his wife Alice only used a fraction of the house. Most of the rooms stayed empty. Guest bedrooms that never had guests. Drawing rooms no one sat in. Galleries no one walked through. The house was too big to live in. But that was the point. It wasn't meant to be lived in. It was meant to be seen, to be talked about, to prove that Cornelius Vanderbilt II was not just wealthy, he was powerful. The house cost over $3 million to build, $100 million today, and then it cost more. Every year, heating, staffing, maintenance, taxes. A mansion doesn't just cost money once, it costs money forever. And Cornelius was fine with that. He could afford it, or he thought he could. But Cornelius wasn't alone on Fifth Avenue. His younger brother, William Kissam Vanderbilt, was building too. Willie K was different from Cornelius. Less serious, more social. He wanted to be liked, admired, envied. And his wife, Alva, wanted even more than that. Alva Vanderbilt was ambitious in a way that terrified people. She wasn't born wealthy. Her family had money once, then lost it. She married Willie K in 1875, home when he was still just another Vanderbilt heir. But Alva understood something. Money was power, but only if you made people see it. So Alva convinced Willie K to build a palace. Not just a mansion, a palace. 665th Avenue, finished in 1883, French Gothic style, designed by Richard Morris Hunt, gray limestone, towers, turrets, stained glass. The house looked like it had been transported from the Loire Valley. It looked like European royalty should live there. And then Alva threw a party, March 26, 1883, a costume ball, the party that changed everything. 1,200 guests, everyone who mattered in New York. Orchestra, champagne, women in gowns that cost thousands, men in elaborate costumes, Alva herself dressed as a Venetian princess. The party cost $250,000, $7 million today for one night. But it worked. After that night, the Vanderbilts were no longer outsiders. They were the center of society. The old money families had to accept them. Because everyone wanted to be invited to Vanderbilt parties. Everyone wanted to see inside the palaces. Alva had weaponized wealth. She turned excess into power, and the rest of the family learned from her. More mansions appeared. Frederick Vanderbilt built at 459 Fifth Avenue. Massive, limestone, Renaissance revival, another palace, another statement. Emily Vanderbilt Sloan built next to her brothers. More limestone, more grandeur. Lila Vanderbilt Webb built on the same block. The Vanderbilts were transforming Fifth Avenue into their personal kingdom. By 1900, between 51st and 59th Street, you couldn't walk 50 feet without seeing a Vanderbilt mansion. They dominated the skyline. They dominated the conversation. And they dominated New York. This wasn't just wealth. This was occupation. The Vanderbilts had taken Fifth Avenue and made it theirs. But something was wrong. You could feel it even then. The mansions were too big, too ornate, too much. They didn't look like homes. They looked like museums or mausoleums, buildings designed to impress the dead. And the Vanderbilts were trapped in them. Because once you build a palace, you can't live in anything less. Once you announce to the world that you need 154 rooms, you can't move into a townhouse. Once you throw a $250,000 party, you can't have a quiet dinner. The mansions weren't just homes. They were prisons. Beautiful, expensive prisons. The costs were crushing. Cornelius II's mansion at 1 West 57th Street required a permanent staff of 40 people. 40, just to keep the house functional. Maids, cooks, butlers, footmen, groundskeepers. Maintenance workers, laundresses, each one on salary. Each one paid every week whether the family was there or not. The heating costs alone were staggering. High ceilings, drafty windows, rooms that were never used but still had to be kept warm. Coal furnaces running all winter. In 1 year, Cornelius spent more on heating than most Americans earned in a lifetime. And the taxes. Property taxes on Fifth Avenue kept rising. The city knew the Vanderbilts could pay, so they charged more. And more. Every year, the bills grew. Every year, the mansions demanded more money just to exist. But the Vanderbilts kept building. Alice Vanderbilt, after Cornelius II died in 1899, expanded the mansion even further, made it larger, more elaborate, as if making it bigger would make it matter more. And as if adding rooms would add meaning. It didn't. The house stayed mostly empty. Alice lived there alone after Cornelius died. One woman in 154 rooms, walking through hallways that echoed, sleeping in a bedroom the size of most people's homes, eating meals in a dining room designed for 30 guests, alone. The mansion wasn't a home, it was a monument, and Alice was its only mourner. By 1920, the cracks were showing. The fortune was shrinking, not because of bad investments, because of the houses. The palaces were eating the wealth faster than it could regenerate. Every mansion, every staff member, every heating bill, every property tax, every dinner party, every gown, every chandelier, every piece of art, all of it draining the fortune. And there was another problem. The world was changing. Fifth Avenue was changing. In the 1880s, Fifth Avenue was residential, mansions, townhouses, quiet streets. But by the 1920s, commerce was moving in. Shops, hotels, office buildings. The mansions were surrounded by storefronts. The quiet elegance the Vanderbilts had built for was gone. Fifth Avenue wasn't exclusive anymore. It was busy, loud, common. The Vanderbilts had built their palaces in the wrong place. They wanted to be at the center of New York high society, but the center moved, and they were left behind. One by one, the mansions became burdens, too expensive to maintain, too old-fashioned for modern life, too isolated in a city that had moved on. The children who inherited them didn't want them. They wanted apartments, modern buildings with central heating and elevators. They didn't want to live in museums. The first mansion fell in 1914. Willie Kay's palace at 665th Avenue, the French Gothic château where Alva had thrown her famous ball. It was demolished, torn down, replaced with a commercial building. The palace that had changed New York society lasted 31 years. Then it was gone. Alva didn't care. She had already moved on. Divorced Willie Kay in 1895, married again, built another mansion in Newport. She had used 665th Avenue to break into society. Once she was in, she didn't need it anymore. So when it was torn down, she barely noticed. Frederick Vanderbilt's mansion at 459 Fifth Avenue fell next. 1914, demolished, replaced. Another palace gone. Emily Vanderbilt Sloane's mansion, gone by 1926. Lila Vanderbilt Webb's mansion, gone by 1927. One after another, the palaces disappeared. And then, in 1926, the largest of them all. Cornelius Vanderbilt II's mansion at 1 West 57th Street, 154 rooms, the biggest private residence in New York, the palace that was supposed to prove the Vanderbilts were eternal. It was sold and demolished. The entire block razed. In its place, Bergdorf Goodman, a department store. The Vanderbilts built a palace to prove their importance. 50 years later, it was replaced by a store selling dresses. Alice Vanderbilt fought the demolition. She didn't want her husband's mansion destroyed, but she couldn't stop it. The family needed the money. The cost of maintaining the mansion was too high. The property taxes too steep. The house was worth more as land than as a home. So it was sold and demolished. And Alice was left with nothing but photographs. She moved into a smaller mansion, still large, still expensive, but not the same. And never the same. She lived there until she died in 1934. By then, almost all the Fifth Avenue mansions were gone. William Henry Vanderbilt's original mansion at 645th Avenue, where it all started, was demolished in 1947. The last of the great Vanderbilt palaces on Fifth Avenue, torn down, replaced with an office building. The dynasty in stone erased in less than 70 years. Walk Fifth Avenue today, 57th Street, 58th Street, where the mansions used to be. Look up. You'll see glass towers, luxury stores, nothing that suggests what was here. No plaques, no markers, no memory. The Vanderbilts built their empire in stone. They believed that building something massive, something beautiful, something expensive meant building something permanent. They believed that marble and limestone would outlast flesh. That palaces would outlast people. They were wrong. The palaces are gone. The fortune is gone. The family scattered. The name remains, but only as history, as a cautionary tale, as proof that wealth without purpose is just weight, and eventually you collapse under it. The mansions weren't killed by time. They were killed by their own excess, by the belief that bigger meant better, that more expensive meant more important, that if you could afford to build a palace, you should. The Vanderbilts built monuments to themselves, and then discovered that monuments are just stones, and stones can be removed. There's a photograph. 1895, Fifth Avenue. You can see 3 Vanderbilt mansions in one frame. Massive, ornate, imposing. They look eternal, like they were always there and always would be. But that photograph was taken 130 years ago. And if you stand in the same spot today and take another photograph, you'll see none of them. Not one. They're gone. All of them. That's the thing about palaces. They don't guarantee permanence. They guarantee attention for a while. And then the attention moves on. And you're left with something too expensive to keep and too embarrassing to explain. The Vanderbilts thought they were building a dynasty. They built tombs. And then they couldn't afford to maintain them. So they tore them down themselves, stone by stone, mansion by mansion, until there was nothing left but stories. And even the stories are fading. Fifth Avenue, today. Tourists walk past Bergdorf Goodman. They shop. They take pictures. They don't know that beneath their feet, beneath the concrete and asphalt, beneath the modern city, there are ghosts. Palaces that no longer exist. Rooms that no one remembers. A family that tried to buy immortality and discovered you can't. The Vanderbilts burned their empire in stone. They built too much, too fast, too big, and the buildings consumed them. The fortune that took 2 generations to build was gone in 3. And the palaces that were supposed to last forever lasted barely 50 years. The stones are gone. The dynasty is gone. Fifth Avenue moved on, and no one looks down anymore. No one remembers what used to be here. No one except historians and ghosts. The Vanderbilts wanted to be remembered forever. They built palaces to guarantee it. But here's what they didn't understand. Forever is not a place you can build. It's a myth. And myths don't need mansions. They need meaning. And the Vanderbilts had wealth. They had power. They had palaces, but they never had meaning. The palaces fell. The family forgot. And Fifth Avenue kept moving. Because cities don't remember. They replace. And nothing stays forever. Not even stone.